Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. It's Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne's 2021. Today was a nail biter all the way down to the finish. It's the ex-world champion Mads Pedersen who wins the day in great style with just force in the sprint. But it's his teammate Jasper Stuyvens that really makes all this happen with a mathematical problem that I just can't actually give you all the numbers on today's stage because there's so many people in each of the groups that the math problem here is just too big. I'll tell you how it exists. I can give you some of the equations, but you're going to have to punch the numbers in yourself because it was just too big and too complicated to know all of the figures that was affecting today's race. But let's go from the start because right away the break goes up the road. Easy peasy. They take off from the group. The stage, sunny, little bit of crosswind from time to time. Later in the stage, a little bit more crosswind, but honestly, not really the big factor for the favorites. It was slight wind, but just not enough to really blow the races in pieces until you got later into today's stage. But right away at 85K to go, that's when Mathieu van der Poel works his magic. Now, all the announcers, I'm sure, are saying the same thing. Why is he going with 85K to go? And where did this Ineos rider come from? Because Jhonatan Narvaez, he did an amazing job going pull for pull with Van der Poel. We have not seen that from anyone other than Wout van Aert or possibly Julian Alaphilippe. When you look at the whole season last year, very few people have been able to go one-on-one with Van der Poel. When we saw the Ineos riders jump across to Van der Poel and not only go across, but directly pass him and start pulling, my eyes lit up and we thought, okay, it's 85K to go, but you're seeing two incredibly strong riders at the front deciding to split this race apart early. Now, why did they go with 85K to go? Okay, in my shoes, when I was a bike racer, sometimes you just get bored. You know you got good legs on a stage like this. You know the stage is more set up for the sprinters. Van der Poel's not a pure sprinter. Certainly, Narvaez is not a sprinter, not a pure one, that's for certain. But the day you got good form, it's the second to last big climb, a chance to split, get away from the group, make something happen of the day other than just coming down to the sprint and getting last. So, there we go. That's the setup. 85K to go. Van der Poel takes off, closes the gap to the front break. Within 20K closes a 2-minute gap, those two. So it was an impressive bridge. When they got there, the mistake the break made right away, I don't understand why they would pull through with Van der Poel when you still had a strong berg coming up shortly. At that point in time, when you get a rider like Mathieu van der Poel showing up, you just sit on, get over the last climb. Of course, over the last climb, you're going to have to start pulling if you want to stay away from the field and the favorites behind, but you don't want to pull going into the climb. And as the guys who had been in the break all the way from kilometer zero pulled with Van der Poel, of course he lit most of them up and they went straight out the back. Amazing job from Bora Hansgrohe rider and a couple of the other riders from that break finding their way back on the Mathieu van der Poel's wheel. And now we're 5 guys in the front. Those 5 guys worked amazing all the way to the finish. I mean, it was for the 3 riders that were in the break from kilometer zero to pull with Mathieu van der Poel and, of course, Jhonatan from the Ineos team. To go pull for pull with those guys and not miss a turn, really, that was an amazing job from that group. Now, behind you got a group of, let's call it 22 guys, give or take, whatever it was. That group, you would think, could have caught the Van der Poel group at any moment. But here's the problem, and here's where things get tricky. Okay, 22 guys more or less in that group, 5 guys in the front. Now let's take a look at the young kid, Tom Petach. He was amazing again today. We saw his great ride that he had yesterday. Now today he's riding for his teammate, who of course is up the road, and he's one of the 5 in the break. So he's causing a little chaos in the second chase group, but he's not the only one that has a teammate up. So everyone that has a teammate in the front that's chasing in the second group, they're not going to work and they're going to cause problems. Now, not only do you have that math problem, but some of those other guys that don't have teammates in the front, they got teammates in the back and they happen to be sprinters in that third group that's chasing. So now they're not going to work. So what you saw, basically the only two guys happy in that second group, really happy that anyways, was the Lotto riders, because they had John Degenkolb, a pure sprinter. Definitely for a classic rider, pure sprinter, but in general, he's fast regardless of any place if you bring him to the finish of the line. So later in the stage, when you see, who was it, Frison from Lotto arguing with the riders in the back, he had no reason to argue. The math problem was so difficult to work out. Whoever he's arguing with, he's either got a teammate in the front, he's got a teammate in the back. His legs are tired because he came from the break originally and got caught. The equations here are just way too difficult. As all three groups come back together, the finishing sprint was done absolutely amazing from the Trek Segafredo rider, Jasper Stuyvens. If you watch, he's patient, calm. It's a tailwind sprint they're calling on the television. So he's coming from the back. The guys in the front starting the sprint, they left the left side of the road open. You never want to go straight down the middle. You want to block either the left or the right side. Instead, they went straight down the middle, which opens it up from the guys in the back to swarm around, and you can easily get past. If he was sprinting on the left-hand side, any of the fast guys coming up from there would allow his sprinter that he's leading out for to move over and jump on. Instead, they went down the middle. Jasper Stuyvens, strong classic rider that he is, just blows straight by on the left side, drops off Mads Pedersen in a perfect position, and grabs a fabulous win at Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. These kind of stages I really like because the equation and the math is just absolutely complicated and so difficult to pick out. But anytime you have a big group of 20 and you see guys aren't rotating through, you got to think in your head, why aren't they rotating through? And you do the math, 5 guys up the road, they got to have teammates in the back. 25, 35 guys chasing from behind. Possibly some of those are sprinters back there, but they got teammates in the second group, so they're not going to work. It's just a crazy day. Let's face it, Mathieu van der Poel and that group of 5 in the front, they had a chance of making it all the way to the line. If it wasn't for Casper Asgreen, who the Kuurne Quickstep rider, we all know how strong he is. He closed a 20-second gap with 2.5, 3K to go all on his own. That was an amazing pull. Of course, he's trying to win it solo. He was last year's winner, so why not try at least one last desperate effort to beat the sprinters to the line. He comes up short. Trek Segafredo, great job. Mads Pedersen, ex-world champion. You got yourself another great classic.